Summertime in the cul-de-sac was the time of year we all looked forward to. 3 months of no school, days spent running the sidewalks and riding bikes, and the familiar sound of the ice cream truck a couple times a day. We were all just middle-class kids, and those without older siblings were under no orders to stay with the group if they went out. We lived in those halcyon days when you didn't come in until the street lights came on, and Mom was only worried when something came out of the newspapers about stranger danger or an abduction. The street I lived on had about 12 families, and all of them have kids. Me and Mikey Castro were best buds. We had been since first grade. There were usually enough kids out on the road riding bikes or shooting hoops to get a game of stickball or soccer going if we wanted. Sometimes, if their parents were cool with it, we'd play touch football in someone's yard, or I'd drag my radio flyer wagon out of the garage and we'd load it up with plastic guns and play war. Most of the kids came in pairs to play the game of the day, pairs of triplets or even quads, but everyone on the block had someone or several someones. Solo kids stood out like a sore thumb, and we all usually chummed together. I'll tell you all this so I could tell you that Robbie was odd by the standards of the neighborhood. Robbie didn't have a best friend, and I'm not entirely sure that he had any friends at all. He was a skinny kid, rail thin, my mom would have said, with big, thick glasses and a mouth made for frowning. He never joined in our games, and we never really offered. We weren't unfriendly kids, far from it, but Robbie didn't feel right. I know how that sounds, but a weird kind of haze seemed to hang over Robbie. It always reminded me of the stink lines around Pigpen and the Peanuts, but this one felt more like VB static. It was a low background sound that hung around him, and if I spent too much time around him, I always felt like I had a headache coming on. He used to draw on the sidewalk with colored chalk. We all joked that his dad must bring back the defective sticks from the chalk factory where he worked. No matter the temperature, no matter the season, Robbie was out there drawing on the sidewalk. It was the summer of '92, and Mikey had a new super soaker. He wanted to do a water war, so all of us with water guns showed up to play. I had a couple of water pistols from Easter, and Steve Westers had about 3 of those big super soakers that were popular the year before. He and his 2 brothers took them, and some of the other kids had a ragged collection of water pistols and water balloons. There were about 11 of us in all. We divided up teams as fairly as we could. The opposing side had more guys, but one of them was Davey Michaels and his club foot. It kinda held him back from running. We were soaking each other in lukewarm water when I heard someone yell in frustration. I looked up to see Robbie shaking his wet arm, scowling at 2 of the Wester brothers who had soaked him with their guns. "What are you doing? You'll erase it! Get away from here! This is my sidewalk! Mom said so!" Some of us stopped squirting each other, moving closer as he brandished his piece of chalk like a dagger at the Westers brothers. They were backing away too, like whatever he had might be catching, and he bent back down to fix the chalk drawing, the one that they had ruined with their water guns. I approached Robbie, meaning to apologize, but he stood up and brandished the chalk at me again. "Get away! This is my sidewalk! Go play on your sidewalk!" I laughed. "Robbie, sidewalks are for everyone. You can't own a sidewalk." "Can't too!" he belted. "Can't too! My mom says so! This sidewalk in front of our home is mine!" I took a step forward, trying to calm him down, but then I saw what he had been drawing and recoiled a little. For a drawing, he was very expressive. I'd later think of cave paintings or early primitive drawings, but this was far more savage. It was a tall man with long frilled arms, long spindly legs. His chest was equally long, stretching in many colors as it tapered up to a rounded head with a pair of stubby horns on it. His eyes were spirals that swirled changing colors as well as they swirled into the irises. Even wet, it looked very formidable. "What is that?" I asked, and Robbie must have heard something in my voice. He grinned. "That's the Chalkman. I draw him all the time. He comes to me at night, tells me that if I don't, he'll get me. So I draw him everywhere, on the sidewalk, on the carport, even on the back patio." I shook my head, turning to go, but I heard him say something else, and it made my blood run cold. I put him out here because he says he likes to watch you guys. What? I half whispered as I turned back around. What did you say? I said he likes to watch you kids while you play. Someday, when none of you are paying attention, he'll grab one of you and drag you into his little world and gobble you up. That's what he says, anyway. He shrieked again when I started spraying the chalk drawing. I couldn't have told you why I did it, but I felt certain that it needed to be done. The thing needed to be gone forever. And as it started to fade, I heard my squirt gun hiss as it went empty. I moved away slowly, Robbie still crying as he yelled at me for ruining it, and when Mikey came over to see what was going on, I found I couldn't look away from the spot where Robbie was fixing that horrid creature. What was that about? Mikey asked, Robbie still shooting me murderous looks. I tried to find my words for it, but I was unable. I don't know. He said something I didn't like. It made me feel... I chewed my lip, trying to find something to describe it and coming up short. Bad. Really bad. The water war was starting to wind down now, most of us on our third or fourth tank, and we were all soaked and shivering. Come on, said Mikey. I just got a new Super Nintendo game. We could dry off and you could borrow some of my clothes. I nodded and allowed myself to be pulled away. But it was hard to look away from that hunched figure as he worked over the chalk drawings of his monster. We spent the afternoon playing a new spaceship game that had been gotten. I can't remember the name, and I was shocked to look out and see that it was getting dark. The streetlights would be coming on now, and my mom would be angry if it got dark and I wasn't home. Mikey asked if I wanted to ask his mother to drive me, but his house was only a few blocks down from my house. If I run, I can make it, I told him, and I headed off towards my home. The afternoon had gotten away from me, the sun riding low and the night fast approaching. I'd have to run if I intended to make it home, but as I ran down the path and towards the sidewalk, I stopped as I saw something I had hoped to avoid. Stretched across the sidewalk, the multicolored chalk, very bright, was the Chalkman. He was even bigger than he had been earlier, his arms seeming to twine around the fence posts, and I hopscotched over and around him as I took off for home. I was going to be late if I didn't all but fly down the pavement. I hadn't gone very far, though, when I saw another Chalkman just as large as the last. His mouth was open, revealing teeth as sharp as knives. A mouth that size would have no problem gobbling me up whole. I ran around this one too, but it wasn't the last. They seemed to be everywhere. And Robbie had been busy indeed. The Chalkman was rising and writhing around the concrete, his mouth open and closed as I ran, those gnashing teeth going up and down as my fervent strides bore me on. I was filled with the terror of bedroom closets and growlings beneath the bed. These chalk drawings made me feel the way that strangers sometimes did, the way I felt when I listened to a scary story, the way I felt when I was outside at night. When I tripped, my cry had nothing to do with the way the pavement ate up my hands and knees. I thought I had just caught the edge of the sidewalk in my haste, but as I looked back, I felt my neck hair stand up. A single chalk hand, the purple claw looking huge and cruel, had risen up to grab my ankle as I ran. The Chalkman was even now rising from the pavement, its gnashing teeth chomping at my ankle. It nearly had me too. I was so surprised to find a chalk arm rising from the concrete. This was no cartoon. Things like this didn't happen in the real world. It had dragged me halfway to its gaping maw before I realized I wasn't dreaming. After bashing my head on the sidewalk, I pulled, and I pulled hard, but his hands were strong. He dragged me back, more of me rising as he yanked at me, but it seemed fate had only other ideas. He grabbed not the whole ankle, but my sock, and as his hand slipped on the fabric, I was up and moving before I could latch back around it. I was running, I was dodging around other chalk drawings, and when I saw my house coming into view, I breathed a little easier. That was until I saw the Chalkman outside my own gate. He was already rising like a blighted weed from the pavement, and I knew I couldn't get around him. I sidestepped into the neighbor's yard, and that's when I saw it. His hose was coiled around the spigot, and I reached for the nozzle as the shadow of that thing fell over me. It was rising huge now, coming up, and I unwound the hose, and when the water hit it, the chalk man seemed as surprised as I was. It stepped back, some of its color fading, and as I pelted it with water, the chalk began to run into the gutter. He was melting like the Wicked Witch, and as he fell away to nothing, I turned off the hose and I ran the rest of the way home. I came in panting, and any anger my mom might have had was washed away like the chalk man. I told her I felt like someone had been trying to snatch me. She made the usual sounds about people being watchful. She fed me, she told me to get ready for bed, but I knew there wouldn't be any sleep for me tonight. How could I sleep with the image of that chalk running through my head? For the next several nights, I had bad dreams about the chalk man. In my dreams, I didn't get away. In my dreams, the chalk man dragged me across the pavement, and the last thing I saw before I woke up was him pulling me into his mouth. After that night, I didn't see any more of the sidewalk drawings. Some people in the neighborhood had complained, and Robbie was only allowed to draw them in front of his own house. His parents got fined, I heard, and his dad grounded him from drawing for a week. I assume he still did, since the chalk man never got him, but the chalk man never darkened our sidewalks again. I can remember on the days when I found myself close to the madly scribbling boy. The chalk man still seemed to move, but it could have been heat shimmer. Those are but the rememberings of a child. They're so vivid, I often wonder how much is speculation and how much truly happened. Hey, did you like that creepypasta story that you heard today? I bet you did, because you stuck around to hear the outro. So, if you want to find more creepypasta stories like this, check out the links in the description down below that lead you over to the Creepypasta Collection, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Volume 1 and Volume 2 also have a bunch of stories from some of the best authors I've worked with in the past 15 years, which I think is pretty high praise, seeing as it's like, 4,000 stories? That's right, 4,000 stories. Subscribe, you'll see them. But yes, 2 books available, Amazon, link down below, check them out. Also, I want to give a huge thank you to everybody on this list of Patreons. Some of these amazing folks are Diana Kraus, AcidSystem, Blake Rattler, Brandon Mendoza, Brenna, Caltuna, ChicagoHitman, CoryxKenshin, CrusaderChocobo, Dakota Best, Daniel Poulsen, Dante Kinkade, Enchanted Buns, Estebean, Hades' Nephew, himbojerry, Our Minute Second Time, Ingegerd Solstrom, Jay Kearns, Jadis Pet, McMog, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Psychomel, Plant Piz, Red Shadow Cat, Remember the Sun, Salty Surprise, Samara Lynn, Seclude, Simba's Bloody Mojo, Sky Harbor, Smiley the Psychotic, Sully Man, Tolly Sue, Team Leo 76, The Demented Voice in Your Head, The Chavez Brothers, The Ginger Bros, Tommy Walters, Viceroy Scorn, William Wellington, Your Bro Keegan, Zabub, and Shadow Gardens. A huge thank you to you guys, everybody who shows up in the description down below, and as always, folks, sweet dreams.